Hi guys and welcome to Horologique. Today we are going to be talking about the Seestern 300T, and this is a watch that I presented to you previously on the AliExpress end of March sale, but today I'm going to do a full review as promised. And the version I chose is the bright yellow version, but do know that it comes in many other versions as well, mainly following what Doxa does. The Doxa 300T is the watch that this one is heavily homaging, but for this one you do not have to pay $2,000 plus. You only have to pay about $176. However, what do you get for that cash? And is this watch interesting enough for you to go ahead and check it out? In one word, yes. Yes, it is. It does do many things well. It does do some others not as well. Many problems have been corrected in this V3. Some others might need to be looked at. But I'll tell you what, let's go and talk about it in more detail. And of course, the link to this watch will be provided in the description below. Know that these are affiliate links and that the company sent me this watch, but as usual, that is not going to influence my review in any way, even though they don't send me anything anymore. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as this really does help me a lot, guys. So thank you very much if you do. Generally speaking, what you're presented with here is a watch with a Seiko NH35, a flat sapphire crystal, a 120 click rotating bezel, which shows two measurements, more on that later, a very nice dial, and a pretty splendid bracelet for the price. And first let's start with the dimensions. And this watch looks big. This watch is actually big at 43.5 millimeters in diameter, with a height of 13.8 millimeters, a log-to-log of 45 millimeters, but a log width of only 20 millimeters, which will make this watch be a little top heavy. The bracelet goes from 20 to 17.5, and it goes up at the clasp at 19.4. So the Doxa model goes back to the 70s, and I believe it came after the famous turtle models, which came in the late 60s. But see what they did there. They got heavily inspired by the turtle with that form factor that is very reminiscent of the first turtles. Large diameter, but very contained log-to-log, which makes this big watch wearable on smaller wrists. So I would say that this one would go on wrists as small as 16 centimeters, so 6.25 inches. Let's talk about the dial. As I was telling you before, there are many dial options on this V3, the most flashy of them being the ones that Doxa already offers. So these yellow one, but also the baby blue, which I almost got, but I already have too many baby blues or Tiffany blue dials, so I settled for the yellow. I didn't have a yellow watch until now. And what they do is that they color match the color of the dial with the numerals on the outer part of the bezel insert. So you've got all printed indices here. The lettering on the dial is also printed in black. You see the brand Seestern at 10 o'clock, which is an unusual placement following what the original does. By the way, Seestern means sea star in German. And at 4 o'clock you've got automatic 200 meters, 660 feet. You've got elongated lines at every cardinal point, making kind of the beginning of a sector dial without going all the way into it. The interesting part about this dial, besides from the unusual placement of the lettering, is the finishing of the whole dial. You've got a kind of metallic feeling that gives it a more shiny aspect. Think about your metallic paint finish in your car. The BGW9 indices are all flanked by black lines, as is the date wheel. And the interesting part here, the very interesting part here, is that Seestern has loomed that date wheel, which is an amazing detail. All watches should come with a loom date wheel. I know that it's no use at all for diving, but from practical purpose it's very good. As for the hands have a black glossy finish And of course you've got that big size difference between the hands, with the hour hand being very small and the minute hand being very big. And this goes back to the roots of this watch. When it was a diving instrument, you did not have to care about the hours, but the minutes was what the divers were caring for. So this made sense at the time. The crystal, as I said before, is a flat sapphire. There appears to be a bit of anti-reflective coating, but not as much as to make a huge difference. And you do see a lot of glare when you're in light environments. The bezel sits proud from the case, but I would say not as proud as on the original. This bezel is 120 clicks, unidirectional, and I wouldn't say there's a bezel insert in here, but it's all one piece of stainless steel. The top part of the bezel is segmented in two, with the outer part representing the decompression dive table and the inner part representing the classic elapsed time. When you rotate the bezel, you've got a very good impression of quality. And there's even a springy feeling to the rotation, especially when you try to rotate back. It just goes back into place. However, I must point that on the watch that I got, I've got a small misalignment to the left. Nothing too serious, nothing too Seiko-y, however. As for the case, as I said before, you've got a turtle shape with circular brushing on top of the case and polishing on the sides. And to make strap changes easier, you've got some perforated lugs. If you flip the watch, you see the back of it, which is a beautiful engraving of what appears to be the Kanagawa wave, with a proud and rather temporary sea star or Seestern hurting away at it. You find the same sea star design, or rather very well etched in the crown. The crown is a screw down, helping with those 200 meters water resistance, and it does even have a gasket. But let's talk about maybe the best aspect of this watch, and that is the 7-link bracelet. Remember that a typical oyster bracelet has 3 links, a complex Jubilee bracelet has 5 links, this one has 7 independent links, all solid, all very well made. The 2 outer links are vertically brushed and the 5 inner links are polished. A very interesting design here, one that changes a bit from the original, from what I have seen. Too bad that this bracelet is only 20 millimeters where it meets the case, because with the weight of the head, it makes it wobble a bit on your wrist. The links of the bracelet are, however, not screw down, but push pin, which is not per se a bad thing, but just know that screw down links are seen as being more qualitative. The clasp with the little star etched as well. The shell, however, is pressed, but the closing elements are milled. You've got 4 levels of micro adjustment, which is plenty enough for this kind of watch. At least on my version, it is a bit hard to open. As I've had it for a few weeks now, it is starting to get loose. The movement, as I said before, is an H35, which is what we have now deemed acceptable in this price range, and it will perfectly do the job. As for the last part of this video, we've been hinting at it during the whole presentation, but let's check the positives and the negatives of this watch. First, the positive, and the first I'm going to mention here, is that amazing gloomed wheel. Very, very nice, bright and useful. Then you've got the good quality of the watch. It is not perfect, it is not exempt of some quality defects here and there that I have already mentioned, but you've got an overall feeling of solidity here, ensuring that you've got a quality product here. You've got a beautifully made bracelet with 7 links. The specs are good, no more than you would expect from a watch at this price range nowadays from a Chinese company, but then again, it is correctly priced. The things that I would like Seestern to change for a V4, if they do make one, to maybe make a better clasp, or at least one that doesn't feel a bit stuck at the beginning. And as I mentioned them, there were some QC issues here and there, as the misaligned bezel insert. And of course, but this is something that is inherent to the model itself, it is top heavy. But there you go, here's a very nice offering from Seestern, a very good first try. I believe this was one of their first models, They're already in V3, so it's actually not a first try, but it's a first model at least. They have ironed out most of the things that are wrong at first in the V1 and V2. Now I believe that a V4 would be perfect. And of course, as this company starts to get more experience, I would like to see them make their own designs. Same thing I wish for every quality Chinese company. Make your own designs, guys. Don't take the easy way out. That's been it for the review. Again, don't forget to like the video if you find it useful, to subscribe to the channel. I will leave you with the review of the turtle. A watch that is very similar to this one. Thank you very much for having watched the video, and I'll be seeing you very soon. Goodbye.